Hello and welcome to another midnight showing. This time, as above, so below. Yeah, I'm not sure how I felt about this one. In fact, I was thinking about maybe throwing in a gag here at the beginning, but honestly, this is going to be your reaction for the first part of it. Wow, I haven't seen that before. Sound like it's done in every sickish film, horror film, gobbledygooks, and Blair Witch. And then middle part, you'd be like, well, that was different. Okay. And then by the end, the fuck did I just watch? Honestly, this movie was... Okay, my recommendation for those who don't want any spoilers or anything, here's my recommendation, my honest to God recommendation. It's worth a watch. It really is. But I can't honestly say it's worth one in theaters. It's got way too many of the horror cliches that go along with shaky cam found footage crap to say that it was worth the ticket price. It wasn't really unique, I guess you could say, but in many ways it was. So with that out of the way, I'll leave you guys to decide whether or not you want to go see it in theaters. The spoiler zone now. The good parts about it. The acting was surprisingly decent, even for the horror genre, and yes, I do use that because actors in horror are usually shit, to put it mildly. But the actors in this one were decent. Didn't stop them a couple of times, so they literally looked at the camera. I'm supposed to be talking like this, but I do this. And yes, there is an actual camera in this one, rather than just like a camcorder or something. No, he's actually got a professional camera. He's filming a documentary. There's a reason to have this, but he puts GoPros basically on their heads. And there's a few times when he's looking at the camera, but it's supposed to be coming from one of these GoPros. Oh wait, that's a product placement. We can't use that term. Yeah, it's basically what he puts on their heads. He just says camera, but it's a fucking GoPro. We all know it's a GoPro. But other than a few times like that, and a few really weirdly delivered lines, the acting was really decent from a lot of these people. I've seen one of them, the guy, I believe his character name is George. I can't think of his actual actor name. I've seen him in other projects before, and I'd be lying if I said that this was his best performance amongst the very few things I've seen him in. But he wasn't bad. Everybody else is relatively new as far as I know. Trying to think, was there anything else the actor-wise? Other good things. The shaky cam the shaky cam found footage works at times, and I was really surprised about that. As I said, there's an actual reason he's got a camera. He's filming a documentary of them, but that's a good excuse for it until about the last half of the film. In which case, yeah, just drop it. You can take the flashlight off of it, just drop it. That's my kind of opinion of most found footage film, except in this case it worked because he's actually filming it like he would, actually filming something. It's not just some guy, oh, camera in your face, camera, bad angles, bad lines. No, he's taking a step back, he's got it up on his shoulder, he's being very professional, not trying to talk over everything else, only putting in some mild things. I think his name was Benny. Yeah. This is kind of a little tangent junction, but I have a little game I like to play when I go watch horror films. It's who's going to die and who's going to live. And they introduced to us like 7 people. The main character girl and the main character guy, George and... Crap, I can't even remember her name now. It's Scarlett. George and Scarlett. They introduce their Benny, the cameraman, although they keep him off camera until the second half of the film because he's actually always filming. And it wasn't until they give him the GoPros that you actually see who he is. And that ties back into my point. But then they give you the 3 tour guides, and they talk about another person who they actually meet in the catacombs later on, which is part of the mystery that's built. But I always try to find out, oh, he's dead, maybe, no, he's dead, she's dead, and these 2 are going to make it out alive if they're actually going to have a good ending. And for this one, 3 people were my guess. That 3 people were going to survive. And I was right about that guess, that there were 3 people who survived at the end. But my guess was Benny until they actually showed him in the film. And it's just a funny joke. But it's like, okay, these tour guides are all dead. They're all dead. There's no way that these guys are going to make it out alive. and then they start activating the GoPros, and you see Benny, and I'm like, oh shit, he's black. He's dead. But he didn't die first, which was a surprise. But yeah, the second I saw, oh crap, he's dead. There's no way around it. I know it's a kind of a funny thing. It's kind of a weird tangent, but it's always been funny, and it's a fun game I like to play for myself. Going into more of this, let's see. Another really good thing about this one is kind of the mythos that goes along with it. Now, I don't know a lot about his story or anything. Nicholas Flamel, for those who have seen Harry Potter, you know, yeah. Oh, Nicholas Flamel? Of course we know Nicholas Flamel. No, we don't. But he's introduced in here, and I was sitting there laughing when I heard that. I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna use Harry Potter. They're gonna use Harry Potter. I don't even know why they really mentioned him. I guess because he is kind of the center of this whole search for the Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, that's why they go into the catacombs. She's an archaeologist basically trying to prove that this Philosopher's Stone exists. And she found a super important clue in the very beginning of the movie, and that's a horrible time to get an email because I'm doing a video, you stupid phone. But it was she finds an important clue about the Philosopher's Stone at the very beginning of the movie, and then she goes on, and god damn it, someone has to go to the bathroom too? Damn you! But she finds the important clue, and moving on, it leads her to the catacombs through a series of almost National Treasure-esque clue finding. There's a plaque, it's on the back of the plaque. She uses cleaning products and a match on stone, and the CGI flames were horrible because found footage and CGI have never mixed. But it leads her to the catacombs and how they get down there. And when you get down there, I don't know, there's just a lot of really, 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 really good atmospheric moments. They get inside there, and the mythos that they are using inside of this, with the search of the Philosopher's Stone, and which leads them, not directly, the gates of hell as you've seen in the trailer, it comes in after. After they get stuck down there, they get to this secret chamber, and they find the Philosopher's Stone, and the archaeologist lady, after she gets the stone, realizes, oh shit, there's a trap over there. They're about to activate it. No. And the place collapses, and they get stuck down there. And nobody died from that part. which was one of those ones, and I'm just like, the ceiling collapsed when you're 500 meters ish underground. Yeah, nobody died. I'm gonna call bullshit. But they don't get out there, and they're trying to find another way out. And of course, in case there's an accident, when the people who built this, they're obviously built another way out, another way. So they start looking for that other way. And they find it. And above it is an inscription that reads, beware all thee who enter here, blah blah blah, which is printed above the gates of hell. And it's a little tunnel that is so small that it forces them to crawl on their stomachs. The literal interpretation of this was very, very well done. And I can't honestly say that it was horrible. I really did like this story. And when they get down into hell, and they start realizing everything that's been happening up until this point, the changing corridors, everything, all the symbolism, everything that's haunting them, all has meaning and purpose, and they have to move on. It's one of those things that I didn't really get why it was a horror film. This would have been a hell of a lot better if it was a story of redemption. If it would just been shot like a regular film, but just taking all the things that they did inside of it, it would have been so much more. So much better. It could have been one of the best films I've ever seen, but they throw in horror cliches and make it a horror film. I don't understand that. And that's one of my biggest problems. This is why I can't say whether or not I actually did like this or whether it was worth seeing in theaters. It was worth a watch. But it was because of this weird choice to make it a horror film that I don't understand. I mean, I can understand if you have horror concepts, thrilling moments, or even some jump scares. Which, that's another thing I need to get onto, and it's good, just 1 second though. I can understand throwing those in, but the ending and resolution don't match the horror genre that you're setting up. It's not... If you wanted to make a horror film, you would have left it a little more ominous or scary or dreadful and not so hopeful. Which is one of the reasons why it just doesn't really meh together like other things do. Now, moving on to the other good that was about the jump scares. The jump scares in this one are not done like traditional horror films. Or, I can't say traditional, like modern day horror films, where it's the orchestra sting right as they go it. No. All the sounds that are on these cameras in this movie are actually being recorded by this camera. There's chanting. There's things that the characters are actually reacting to and freaking out over. I mean, they're actually legitimately being scared and pissed off and frightened and weirded out. There's this really, really, really cool moment when they're inside of a tunnel and one of the guys steps in water, and all of a sudden the sound in the room, just like your ears clog up as if you just jumped 1,000 feet elevation or are stuck underwater, and they're the characters, this is happening to the characters. And it's just, they're trying to figure out, they're baying things, they're clearing out their ears, they're trying to talk, but nothing's coming out, or very little's coming out, and then all of a sudden they hear a dinging, like a freaking, a sonar, the same sound the sonar on a sub would make, and just, they're freaking out. I mean, it's actually creating an atmosphere of dread. And the jump scares inside this one are all things that happen on screen. It's nothing in the background with the music or anything. It's all just there, and the characters reacting to it. It makes these scares so much more legitimate, and so much better, and so much realer. But then we have to get into another part. And I will take a small break because my camera is about to run out of film. I will be back in 2 seconds. And we're back. I apologize about that. I forgot to clean out my camera before I did this. But, just to finish up my last note, because it's been a few minutes since I had to turn this off and restart this over again. So, just to finish up my last thoughts on that, the atmospheric setting really did help their jump scare moments and all their other scary moments and dreadful ones. Everything that happens after they get into hell, it just fits, because everything that you hear, the characters hear. Everything that you see, the characters see. Everything that's going on, it's none of this weird. A good example of the crappy part of it is Sinister. I hope you haven't seen that one. It's bad. It sucks. It's stupid. But there's a moment inside of it where Ethan Hawke's character is trying to find. He hears something. He's got a baseball bat. And he's like looking through the house, and all the ghosts are like popping up behind him and whatnot. And you will hear all these sounds and things, but Ethan Hawke's like he doesn't hear any of it. These kids are like frolicking around and dancing around him, and he can't hear it. None of this fits in it. It's not scary to the audience. It's not scary to the character. What's the point of it? He can't hear any of these creepy sounds. He can't hear the orchestra strings, so why put them in there? This movie, they can hear it all. They hear these sounds, the sirens, the noises. They hear the chanting from these other people. They hear all of this. So I'm just gonna say it. It was actually legitimately scary in parts. It really was. It wasn't the typical "I'm gonna get you," scary, startling, not scary. It's none of. There's a few of those moments in there, but they fit the style and everything else that's happening in the film, and it is glorious. I'm just gonna use that word, glorious. It fits so well. And the mechanics of hell and how they actually get out of hell are really, really cool. The most notable one, I think, in my opinion, was that after they get into hell, literally everything is mirrored from what happened before. They really did set up how they got from point A to point B very, very well. They had to go through this little tunnel thing. They rope down here where Benny cuts up his hands on the rope. They do this other thing where they have to go underwater and come back up into another room. They do all of that, but in reverse order, and the room setups are literally backwards from what they were before. This is a very, very, very good idea, and it was really, really interesting seeing how some of this worked. I mean, they literally had a painting on a wall a second ago in the other room. They go through here and they get into this room like, wait a minute, this is the exact same. No, it's not. Everything's backwards. The painting's on the other wall and it's upside down. Everything is completely backwards, and it was just so. It was really cool. It was very well thought out. In the very beginning, there's bones and skeletons inside these catacombs. When they get to that same point inside of the hell one, it's instead of bones and things, they're actual people embedded in the rock. It's it's a very interesting and cool idea, and its execution is the only thing that I question inside of this. And with that, that kind of just brings me into the bad about this show. The bad, I don't want to say that it was bad. Number one thing, why was this a horror film? Why was it even trying to be a horror film? It doesn't make sense. This story feels more like something that would be it. Okay, I'm just gonna say it literally. It's Full Metal Alchemist in reverse. She's on the physical side where physics sciences dominated the world, and she's looking for the Philosopher's Stone, and they go down inside of here, and they get through a gateway, a portal, and alchemy works. The Philosopher's Stone heals wounds, and there's monsters, there's creatures popping out of the stone, there's a literal Grim Reaper walking around. Yeah, and I do mean a literal Grim Reaper. And it's... They go through all of this and end up on the other side, where how they get out was a little creatively weird. They get to a room they've never been to before, and there's a manhole cover. And they try to pull it and nothing, and all of a sudden, freaking out in anger, one of the characters accidentally pushes on it, and it pops up. Oh, it pops down. Wait, what? Oh, okay. Let's try this again. So they push it, and then they start skidding it out, like they're stuck in this weird reverse. They're pushing the manhole color down and out, and then they crawl back. When they crawl out of it, gravity shifts once they're outside, and they're standing right side up. And I'm like sitting here, this is Full Metal Alchemist. Wait until they realize that they're actually in Central City and alchemy is the #1 science and physics doesn't work inside of this reality. And they're like, oh yay, we're happy, we're out, blah blah blah. And it literally was the original Full Metal Alchemist series, Circuit 2004, if you want to look it up. It's a great series. But it's shot in a horror film setting. Why? This isn't a horror story. I mean, it had horror elements in it, don't get me wrong. When they got into hell, there's horror elements in there. They had some jump scare-ish things before they get to hell. They had a pretty intense moment where Benny gets stuck inside of one of the tunnels, and he's on top of the bones, he's hyperventilating, and if I hadn't seen Buried, that would have been very interesting, but it's just Buried. That's all it is. With a worse actor than Ryan Reynolds. I actually like Ryan Reynolds, so don't take that literally. I like Ryan Reynolds, he's awesome. But Benny's not Ryan Reynolds, and him doing this doesn't work very well. You can clearly see he's not stuck. If you actually look at his hips, he's just sitting there, and it's there's some pretty dumb moments inside this one. Moving on. There's some really dumb moments, like Benny's stuck inside of the tunnel when he's not stuck, and we can clearly see that. There's a hilariously dumb one when the main character Scarlet, she's like she's got to run back and put the Philosopher's Stone back in order to fix everything, and all the stone bed creatures that are popping out of the walls and attacking them earlier. She's just running, and she starts boom. She's like smacking them around. They mentioned that she had a black belt before in the beginning of the film. They really did mention it, but it's like strong arm from this maybe 130 pound lady. I mean, she was pretty small. And these are stone monsters who just took a chunk out of her boyfriend. Yeah. She doesn't... If it was just once, I could understand. And it kind of fit the setting and whatnot. So I would let it pass if it only happened once. But no, on the return trip, after she's put the stone back, she's got to get to everybody as fast as possible. What does she do when she runs into it? Strong arms it again. And I was like, why were you afraid of these things? I mean, it's a bad moment. And in a non-horror film, I wouldn't be laughing as much. But the fact is, this is in a technically horror film. It makes me laugh every time I see that. I'm not gonna lie. Female empowerment. There's a few other dumb moments where they're obviously following a crazy man, and I emphasize crazy. I mentioned they find a character inside these catacombs who, in all honesty, could have been removed, but I kind of liked him. They set up that these guys that they hired know the catacombs, know how to get through these catacombs, which way they gotta go. Well, they come up to an intersection where they have to go through this really tiny hole, and that's where Benny gets stuck, is halfway through this. And they gotta crawl in the bones to get to where they're going, and do this big old long, they go straight, and then when they get out, they just do this, cut to another tunnel, and it takes them to where they're going. But they point out that there's obviously a door right here with just some rocks in front of it. Why not use this way? Well, they're very superstitious, and there's something bad over there. There's something really bad over there. Well, they're like, well, it's just superstition. Who cares? When you're looking for the Philosopher's Stone, right? But they set up this guy, and it's, there's a man. I can't remember his French name, but it translates to the mole. They all knew him, and they were all friends with him. And he knew all these tunnels. Back, forward, sideways. It doesn't matter. They know all of them. But when they get to that door, they said that he knew all of them, except that one. He knew that there was some reason you couldn't use that door. And he did it. And one day, he just had to find out what it was. He went in there. No one's seen him since. That's a legitimately scary superstition type thing, and it's kind of resembles something from 1408, where people just die in that room, whether it be natural or supernatural causes. That kind of thing, superstition would make sense, and they ended up going with their decision, and they go through this tunnel, and they're back in front of that door, which makes no sense. The tunnel caves in behind them, but they're in front of that door. The door that can't be there. That straight line and whatnot. But they end up deciding there's no other choice. They have to go through it. They go through it, and they find the mole. He's there. I liked they did this, but it could have removed him and just had them going through the tunnel. This guy's obviously crazy. He's off his rocker. You shouldn't be here. I'm not. No, it's dangerous. There's something bad over there. And you want a way out? You want out? Follow me. And he rounds the corner, and everybody else rounds the corner, and somehow he's 50 plus feet across, 50 freaking feet at the other end of the tunnel, about to make another turn. I'm sorry. 2 seconds. He jumped 50 feet in 2 seconds. Use your heads. Turn around and start digging your way out. There's dumb people come in horror films, and if the story hadn't tried to be something more than a horror film, I wouldn't be harping on this, because dumb people in horror films is just a thing. In this one, they just make so many stupid decisions. There's one, let's see, archaeologists looking for ancient treasure don't think that there might be a booby trap. And, oh no, that's a trap. Stop it, don't. You don't realize that that's a distractionary trap until they cave in the freaking roof? You've been looking for this for many years. You were continuing your father's crest. You even have a father's notebook like The Last Crusade. Yes, and there's a lot of references to that can be made to that series as well, with the Holy Grail, the Philosopher's Stone that can create immortality. It's and if there weren't so many of those, I probably wouldn't be harping on this either. But there's just a lot of stupid moments like that where it's like, really? Fucking really? And if there weren't so many of those, I would like this more. But it all ties back into, this should not be a horror film. This should be a story of redemption, where they are looking for this thing, and this Philosopher's Stone, and they're going through this, and they realize why everything's happening the way it is, why they're seeing things, why they're attacking. It's just what's haunting them. It's a very, very well thought out story in that regard. But then they try to shove all this horror stuff into it. And this movie could have been on par with, well, to go back to another earlier reference, Full Metal Alchemist. This could have been the perfect ending. It could have been a really great standalone story. But it's not, because they keep shoving this stuff in there, making for stupid moments, dumb characters, and I don't know. I definitely thought the movie improved in the second half when it started going into hell and seeing a lot of these cool things. And yeah, I get why there's scary elements when you're in hell. When you're outside of hell, though, no, it doesn't make any sense. There's no reason why Benny had to die. There was just there are just so many other things that just little touches here and there that just distort the film as a whole. And I really wish there was some kind of director's cut or a reshot or a recobbling, if you know that reference. It's because this should not be a horror film, and I really wish it wasn't. If this was shot like a regular film and not a found footage POS, we could all enjoy it a lot more. And I do mean that. In every way, shape, and form. A lot fucking more. The cliches are all there. The dumb moments that just drag it down. So, in closing and in my final thoughts, this show was definitely worth a watch. It did a lot of things that most wouldn't do. I mean, I'm really tempted to look up a lot of this alchemy mythos that they put into this film. And there was apparently in Full Metal Alchemist too. I mean, and Harry Potter, because there's so many. I want to know how much this was actually real or whether it was plagiarized from other works like that. And it kind of makes sense. Another little small tidbit that didn't make much sense, but what does Arabic, Egyptian, and freaking Mayan have to do with each other? The alchemic symbols and things, they're like trying to cross-translate through so many different languages and things. It seems like you should pick one Arabic and stick with that theme, and then don't throw in Knights of the Templar and a freaking Egyptians inside. It doesn't mesh. It's like they just threw in mythologically cliches and hit Flabé on their freaking blender and dumped it on the screenplay. I don't know. But that didn't bother me as much because I was able to follow it. But from talking to a couple people while exiting the theater, they said that they had a harder time following it than I did. So I can see that being a problem. Back to my final thoughts. It's definitely worth a watch. If they hadn't made it into a horror film, I'd have a different opinion of this. I can't recommend this in theaters, but when it hits Redbox, yeah, it's definitely worth taking a look at. if you're very easily scared, don't watch this at night. If you aren't very easily scared, then no problems. And that's all I got. If you enjoyed the video, hit like and subscribe and share it with your friends. As always, I'm Kelly, and I'll see you all next time.